Well, hello. How are you guys doing? This is Mongo Slate. I appreciate everybody who is going to be listening to this. Thank you all for stopping in. This is our weekly sort of pop culture um, stream. Every Sunday, we talk about something other than pro wrestling. This week, we'll be talking about various subjects, most of which I will get into momentarily. Um, we're going to be talking about Disney CEO Bob Chapek and his comments on animation, saying that essentially adults don't like animation. We're going to double down on this by Matt Walsh of Daily Wire. And what was this earlier this month, earlier in October, I think October the 16th or 17th. He went on his show and said that anime was satanic and that adults shouldn't watch cartoons. Now, some of that might be a little bit tongue in cheek, but I do um, believe that it comes from a true place and it's something that people genuinely believe. It's one of those things people genuinely talk about in terms of whether adults should participate or in any way um, subject themselves to cartoons or animation or whatever. So we're going to talk about that. Of course, we're also going to be discussing a Naruto um, and Inuyasha. And we're going to do a couple of manga reviews. I bought volume one of Hell's Paradise just to see how it is. I didn't know that it was already over when I bought it. It's very hard to find the rest of the chapters without just, buying them online on Amazon. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Attack on Titan. We'll talk about From the Red Fog, which I think is an underrated manga. Um, and anything else that you guys might want to bring up over the next several hours. So before, as we give people a few minutes to pour in, I do live streams every Thursday and every Sunday. The Thursday live stream is usually wrestling centered. Usually a big story will pop up. I will save it for the live stream, unless it happened several days before this. Um, Sometimes an issue is so perfect that I have to get to it immediately, and I don't get around to the live stream. But sometimes I can hold it off until the live stream. On Sundays, we do, of course, mishmash of pop culture, and the only there is a lot of stuff going on. I see that your boy JD from New York is getting piled on. Um, that's very sad. And I haven't made a decision yet, but I think I'm gonna do a smart tears on it because I'm seeing it too much. I'm seeing it way too much. It's one thing if I'd have seen like 4 or 5 people dunking on this guy, and I'm just kind of like, you know what, we might as well go ahead and make content off of it. But we're not going to do that today. We're probably gonna do it probably tomorrow or the day after, whenever I decide to actually get it done. But we're gonna talk about that some other time. But that's just one of the wrestling things I thought was pretty funny. I don't even know how it began, which is another reason why we're not doing it tonight because it happened while I was at work and I wasn't paying attention to that shit. Next Sunday, um, it will be November the 6th. We're going to do probably Thriller. I thought, matter of fact, I think I said we were going to do Thriller um, closer to the date of the release. So I think it's going to be the 20 something or whatever. Oh yeah, I forgot we got to do horror movies tonight, right? Because tonight is Halloween. Well, tomorrow is Halloween, and we're going to get into a bit of it because I'm about to pull my own little Matt Walsh. Because I'm about to just really rant about how much I hate horror movies. That's probably gonna piss some people off, but we're gonna get in there. I mean, I should have taken notes a long time ago about horror movies. I just never did it. I just wanted to rip off from the heart for it. I want you to understand the hate for horror movies comes straight from the heart. That's what I want you. That's why I didn't write any notes down. I found some NXT trading cards. I found them at Walmart. They were $25. Jesus Christ. But I only got one box, so we'll probably do an unboxing eventually. Maybe on next week's live wrestling live stream, I'll do an unboxing of the NXT trading cards. All right, so we're 5 minutes in, so we can get the video started. We can start with Naruto. A lot of people have been really. I put out these little teasers every once in a while to let people know where I am on Naruto. And most recently, the episode I watched was yesterday. I didn't get the chance to watch any episodes of Naruto today. I'll probably watch some after I get done with this. But most recently, Neji was killed by the Ten Tails, and it was used as motivation for all of the various allied forces to now use their abilities against the Ten Tails. But right now, I am trapped in Hashirama Madara childhood drama, and I'm not going to lie to you and say that I'm not interested in that. And I'm going to tell you, the only reason I'm not interested in it is because it seems to be the same thing over and over again. Every rivalry or friendship in Naruto begins with them being children. They never like meet each other as adults and don't like each other. It almost always begins as children, like they were beefing as kids. And it's like a routine pattern with Naruto. We just get mired in flashbacks of information that we don't really need. Like it's nice to have to flesh out the story, but I don't think we quite need it. But that's kind of where I'm stuck at. My boy Neji got killed. If you have been following this for a while, Neji is one of my favorite characters. Well, he was in the original incarnation of Naruto, and then they took all the edge out of him. And he really didn't do anything for most of Shippuden, at least none of the actual canon story. He didn't really do much of anything. And then he just randomly gets killed off. Assuming he's not magically brought back somehow, which, now that we know that that's possible, it's always possible that he's magically brought back somehow. But I feel bad for Neji. I really do. Because I liked him. I like Neji. I like Neji a lot. I felt like his character had a lot to gain. But let's start with going back to when the reanimation jutsu first came. Because this is the last time we stopped on my live stream. So Madara Uchiha was resurrected via the reanimation jutsu. Then that led us to believe that there was two Madara Uchihas. Now, at that point, I think I posted a post about there being two Madaras. Almost immediately afterwards, I was like, oh shit, the other one is Obito. And the reason why I said it was Obito, and I kind of knew it, is because Toby is an anagram of Obito. And he called himself Toby at one point. That was his name. And I was like, Toby? If you rearrange those letters, and I was right, but nobody would have known it. And that was another one of those things that from Naruto that despite this anime being, 15, 16 years old, it wasn't spoiled for me. So we get the real Madara, but we end up getting mired in all of the backstory that involves the various tailed beasts and all of their names. We had to learn all of the tailed beasts' names, and Naruto had to learn how to respect the tailed beasts. And we got to see part of the story from Kurama, I think that's his name, Karama, from his perspective as a living, intelligent entity that has been trapped inside of a small boy and continuously poked and prodded, and the boy continuously steals his chakra and uses him willy-nilly and mistreats him. And this is part of Naruto learning how to, become one with the tailed beast within him, which you could take, I guess, psychologically as becoming one with the beast within. I think, maybe a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how, a lot of shonen and a lot of superheroes, they have this sort of two sides to them. The shadow, Batman becomes the shadow. He becomes Batman. He kind of slinks away from being Bruce Wayne, which is why, it's always weird for Bruce Wayne to have like children or a girlfriend or something like that, because Batman always comes first. The Incredible Hulk, similar situation where sometimes he becomes the Hulk, But then there's those weird times where he's both, where he's got the Hulk's strength but Banner's mind. That's kind of where Naruto is right now, where he's come to grips with Kurama. They have an understanding, and now he can go back and forth. And the tail beasts no longer feel like slaves to their Jinchuriki. They feel like it's a partnership. And it comes from the sort of outside fear that they're going to be sort of enslaved by other people. For instance, Karama, who first used the name Madara Uchiha in the series, he already knows what Madara can do and what Madara would do. And so he kind of has to humble himself and realize that he needs Naruto if he's going to, not be just fed to the Ten Tails and lose his intelligence and anything that he's ever wanted for himself. So that was interesting. I did like that. I thought it was okay. I felt like we kind of lingered on it a little too long, which is why I can't speak on it in any detail, because my eyes glazed over at some point because there was just so much of it. Again, it felt like we were seeing a lot of the same flashbacks, just from the Fox Demon, from his perspective. So I was just kind of like, Urgh. But it was an interesting thing about foxes in Japan. Foxes are like the ultimate trickster gods. I think it's also a Native American mythology. But almost anytime you see a fox in any type of Japanese animation or Japanese cartoon movie or whatever, it's always going to be a trickster. And that's one of the things that we learned with Naruto when he was a kid. He was obsessed with this fox mask. It's called a kitsune mask. Kitsune. And in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's also a fox goddess named Kitsune. She works with the Shredder. And essentially she can transform into anything, and she's a trickster. So we kind of get the same concept here. That I think I want to say the video game Onimusha also had trickster foxes in it or something like that. But that's kind of a run-of-the-mill thing for Japan. So I did enjoy that. All right, so our boy Sasuke is still battling his inferiority complex. Itachi wants him to walk the right path, but he has this problem where he always feels like he's behind Itachi, always in his shadow. They got to have another conversation due to Itachi being brought back via the reanimation jutsu. That was okay, but it just led to more flashbacks of now Itachi's got to tell the story of what he went through as a double agent. And then we had to do this shit again when the third Hokage was reincarnated or reanimated. We had to go through that shit again. It's like, oh my God, how many times, like how many different perspectives do we need on this same fucking subject? Like the same fucking subject. We don't need everybody who was involved, their perspective. We already went through this shit like 100 times that Itachi was a double agent. And he's basically, coerced into doing what he did by Danzo and all those guys. Danzo has been dead forever in this series already. So even though most people, in fact, I think most of them do know he's dead already. But it was ridiculous. But I guess it was closure for Sasuke, even though it's still not closure. I really like the sort of standoff between Madara and Tsunade. I thought that was fun. Madara having been dead all this time, doesn't know what was going on, doesn't really care. But he just sees all the Hokage, because it's like the 5 Hokage that are going to stand up against him. He sees this as a perfect opportunity to try all of the jutsu that he knows and just pummel these people to death, which led to him like just doing wild shit to them. Like I think he made clones and he cut the mountains in half. He dropped 2 goddamn comets on them. He's trying his best to kill these people, and effortlessly too, which I think is very awesome. He's evil for sure, but the sort of callous way that he comes across is very intriguing. you know, because it's not a screaming, emotional, like that's Obito. Obito is very emotional, you know, because he's still alive, as far as I know. He's still alive. And he has this sort of fixation, this hatred for the world as it exists. While Madara is just kind of like, yeah, I told you that the world sucked. And of course, you should have listened to me the first time, which I thought was pretty cool. But I did enjoy the Tsunade Madara sort of a face off. I thought that was fun. Um, let's see. All right, so we got Kabuto was still alive. He had borrowed some chakra from Orochimaru, and he used this chakra to fight the Uchihas Itachi and Sasuke. And we got Kabuto's backstory, and Kabuto's backstory being one of growing up in this orphanage, not remembering who his real parents were. Everybody kind of making fun of him because he wasn't too smart. And then they realized that he wasn't too smart because he couldn't see. And another issue that I see with a lot of these, the pattern of these backstories, is how characters start to look like other characters. Like we have already established that Kabuto is not related to the nun who is raising him, and yet they look so much alike. Now maybe we're gonna figure that out later that they are related, but they look so much alike. It was like she really was his mother and she wasn't. And then they, of course, at the end of the story, we learn that Kabuto ends up killing her, similarly to the same way Gaara ended up killing his uncle, because they was just ordered to. And you kind of see that that's kind of the way of the ninja. You just kind of do what you're told. And if that means killing a child that you raised or helping to raise, then so be it. But I felt like when you notice a pattern of behavior, you just keep seeing it, and it's kind of like whoever, I think Kishimoto is the name of the mangaka who started writing Naruto. It seems like, and I know I do this too, so I'm not going to take the piss. You kind of get a hang up of things, and it seems like he has a hang up about parents or parental figures attacking their own children. You know, because you see that happen so many times. You even had Gaara and his father have a conversation about it when his father was reanimated. He had to have a conversation about, you know, why his father tried to kill him, you know. And that was a good thing about this whole battle in the reanimation tree. So even though I was kind of frustrated because I was like, we spent all this time getting rid of all these Akatsuki assholes, and now all of them are being brought back. We're going through flashback after flashback after flashback of all these people. Some of these people, I don't even know who they are. They just throwing so much at you. And I'm just trying to find the best bits and just talk about those. But they're offering some of the living characters closure. They have the ability to talk to people that they wouldn't be able to talk to before, like Tsunade talking to her boyfriend. And I thought it was very cool that her boyfriend actually saved her. I don't remember the guy's name. But she's about to get killed by Madara, and then the guys kind of popped in and saved her, right as the reanimation jutsu was dispelled after Itachi defeated Kabuto. And which is absolutely just one of my, that frustrated me to no end. Because it's like, okay, I will talk about it when I get there, as a matter of fact. I want to go in order so I won't lose anybody. But I was just getting kind of frustrated. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I did not mind learning more about Kabuto. He had been around for so long that they waited until right before he was defeated to give us his backstory, to give us his origin. And it seems to be another thing that they do in anime a lot, where they'll save the origin of the character until the character is either A, already dead, or B, until the character is about to die. In which you kind of get the idea that, yeah, we're about to say goodbye to Kabuto. You know, when they started going into Kabuto's backstory, I was like, yeah, we're about to say bye-bye to Kabuto. You know, they wouldn't be going through all this for this guy if he wasn't about to go bye-bye. So all of that was fun. Itachi ends up defeating Kabuto via a Sharingan, which was absolute Sharingan wank. He created an infinite loop. It's an infinite loop illusion. that in order to get out of it, all Kabuto has to do is humble himself and stop trying to fight them. But because he's got this huge sense of he can do anything, he can do everything, he knows how to defeat them, and he's a researcher, so he's infinitely curious. He instantly wants to try to figure out how they're doing what they're doing, and his interest is distracting him, and that's keeping him fighting them. So mentally, he's still fighting them, but the battle is actually over. And somehow Itachi dispels the reanimation jutsu. And in doing that, all of the reanimated corpses start to vanish, except Madara Uchiha, who magically knows how to break the reanimation jutsu. So he gets to continue living and gets his soul back in his body, and he's no longer a corpse. And I'm just kind of looking at this shit like, this guy just absolutely knows every jutsu imaginable. It was very cool, but it was another thing that they broke. When you break concepts, it loses its punch. You know, like the Dragon Ball, you can only die once. The dragon will only resurrect you once. Once you do that, it kind of loses the stakes of, okay, you get killed by and you get resurrected with the Dragon Balls. And it just happens. So now once you have the reanimation jutsu and anybody can be brought back with the reanimation jutsu, then okay, so now you get to continue talking in your own personality, in your own voice. You're not like a zombie or anything like that. So you have your own memories. You can remember things. You can talk. And yeah, your body isn't yours. You can continue fighting, or you are fighting, and you don't want to. But at the same time, you are perfectly capable of holding an entire conversation and of giving closure to the villain, to the heroes or whatever. So that was all interesting. So we learned the truth from Itachi, even though this wasn't the last time we talked about this, that Shisui Uchiha gave him his eyes, which is weird. You know, these guys have just been given eyes, like eyes just been given away. I thought it was very creepy. I thought it was very cool. I don't know if I mentioned this, that Danzo had so many eyes, but they were like on his arm. Like that was so badass. That could have been something that we definitely could have built to later. It reminded me a lot of Hunter x Hunter, where you had oh god, the name of the character escapes me, but he was my favorite character in the show, and then they took him out. The guy who's, you know, he comes from a clan and they start hunting his eyes. That's how I was Bishop Marley. I never really knew anything about Naruto. I heard about it so much. I've seen people cosplay it endlessly, but I didn't know anything about it until I started watching it myself. The Leaf Village, Danzo and all these guys, believed that the Uchiha were going to have a coup d'etat. They was going to try to take over the Leaf. And in order to do that, they decided to just basically kill all of the Uchiha. And therefore, they had Itachi kill all of the Uchiha. And he did it in exchange that he will allow one to live, which would be his brother. So that's the truth. That's what happened. Were the Uchiha planning a coup? I don't know. I'm pretty sure they were. I mean, like I said, like you look at if you take the Uchiha as the Saiyans of this universe, which they essentially are, then that means that Danzo was the Frieza, or the second Hokage would probably be the Frieza of this universe. The second Hokage hates Uchiha, which is amazing. Like that amount of racism, I love it. I love that racism. It's actually it's very unique. It's very unique. But we got, this guy, he just has the elimination of the Uchiha. And, because they feared the power of the Sharingan and all that kind of shit, which they have a right to do, considering Madara is one of the most powerful beings ever. And he is currently whooping people's asses and dropping comets on them and splitting mountains in half and all that other kind of nonsense that he's pulling. And you got Itachi, who can, put people in permanent loops forever. Yeah, and they talk about it later, Bishop Marley, about the Uchiha. They are empowered by hatred, but it's almost like they're empowered by their emotions in general. That they have very deep clan love, but it very easily turns to hate. And that was one of the last things that I learned is that the Uchiha, they are pretty much powered by hatred. And this explains why Itachi wanted Sasuke to hate him, because he wanted to make Sasuke stronger, so that Sasuke wouldn't be a victim. So it makes sense, and from that regard, that the Uchiha are sort of empowered by hatred. And this also tells the story of Obito pretty well too, because Obito is a pretty weak fighter. That's part of learning his backstory. This is almost one of the few times that learning about somebody's backstory actually made sense. And you learn that Obito was mid as fuck as a kid. He was a bit of a goofball. He wasn't some fighting savant like all the other Uchiha. He was the pathetic one. He was the sad one. But he had a sense of honor. He had a sort of code. And when he felt like his friends were in danger, because he loved Rin especially so much, that triggered his Sharingan, and that's really what made him powerful. And it kind of pushed him forward. But it was seeing Rin die that empowered him even more. And that what came from that was his hatred of Kakashi, and he murdered all of those Mist Village guys, which was fucking awesome. That fucking ruled. I really am a big fan of Obito now. Yeah, he's a good character. He's a good character, but I like that they showed his childhood because it made sense. It showed that Kakashi was kind of a dickhead as a kid. He's kind of I wouldn't say he was a bully, but he certainly didn't respect Obito. And there was certainly not any respect between the two of them. Obito was considered a goof. He was the Naruto of that team. And that's another pattern that you see is there's always three of them. And, there's always two guys, one girl, and one of the boys is in love with the girl. And she kind of doesn't know it or doesn't care or whatever the case may be. And it doesn't always lead to a rivalry between the two. Like, Shikamaru and Choji don't have that kind of relationship. But he kind of just has a pattern that he follows, Kishimoto, and you can see that's kind of how he chose to do things quite often. The guy's name was Don, which is a weird name for a ninja. Tsunade's boyfriend, his name was Don. I was very excited to see Orochimaru come back. I was very excited for that because I love Orochimaru. He fucking rules. Sasuke, quote unquote, resurrected him by sort of liberating him from Kabuto. Now Orochimaru is kind of doing the bidding of Sasuke. Not really, but kind of. You can't trust Orochimaru. So the Ten Tails is resurrected. It's incomplete, but Madara and Obito have decided they were going to resurrect the Ten Tails. And Madara's dream is to encapsulate the entire world under a single consciousness, which is the infinite Tsukiyomi. He's going to control the world and all that kind of stuff. At this point, Kakashi finds out there's a link between his Sharingan and the Master Madara Sharingan, his Kamui and the time, space, and all this kind of stuff. How can Toby not be touched? He can be, punches are going through him and all that kind of stuff. How is that? Then they figure out that, okay, well, me and this guy have some kind of connection. And then at that point, of course, it was for sure Obito. And then that's when we realize that that's when Kakashi surmises that he has Obito's eye. Therefore, this guy is Obito Uchiha. So that was really fantastic. I thought it was really great storytelling, even though it was teased quite a bit. We kind of got lost in some of the backstory as we learned about Obito and Rin and all of that stuff. And I was very interested in that part because I was interested in Obito as a character because he wasn't like all the others. He was a unique case in terms of how he was as a kid. He wasn't good, and it was And yes, I think somebody said Obito is basically just Naruto with a Sharingan. He's also another incarnation of negative energy Naruto. You know, there was Pain, there was so many guys that were basically just inverted Narutos. Obito is another one. Obito is in love with Rin. Rin just kind of Naruto was the worst in his team outside of Sasuke. Obito was the worst on his team outside of Rin, who literally doesn't do anything. At least I haven't seen her do anything. He wants to impress her, but he's not really all that good. He tries very hard, but again, he's not good. He's kind of always getting put down. He's always getting made fun of. And he has these big dreams. So you basically just see that Obito is fucking Naruto. He's talking about being Hokage, and they're gonna have to etch his goggles into the stone, and over again. And basically, Kishimoto just decided, hey, how about yet another negative energy Naruto? So you got Gaara, you got Nagato, you just got so many of these fucking guys that just have bits and pieces of Naruto. And Obito's just another one. But I like the backstory. I like the backstory. I unfortunately I overthink things, so I spoiled it for myself because I looked at Toby and Obito and it was like, come on, it's just Neil Gaiman tried this in a book. When he did the anagram thing. What was it, American Gods, where we weren't supposed to know that Loki was in the book. And then you looked at the name that he gave him. It was so odd, and I was like, "This is obviously an anagram." And then you put it together, you switch it around. It was Loki, and I was like, you know what? Come on. But what I liked is that Obito didn't. He had kind of shed the Obito idea. He didn't like that name. He wanted to be anybody except Obito. He changed his name to Toby. When he was talking, he would call himself Madara. He let other people think that he was Madara. But so he was running away from being Obito. You know, he didn't want to be that guy anymore. Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 different Narutos on this fucking show. You know, it's like everybody's some kind of incarnation of Naruto. It's very weird. It's very weird. You can tell that the mangaka really liked Naruto. He really liked Naruto. So he wanted to basically show you all the different ways Naruto could have gone wrong. You know, and Obito is the way Naruto could have gone wrong if he wasn't, you know, who he is in terms of having that belief in his friends and believing in the bond that him and his friends have. He also doesn't have that jealousy that Obito has. Obito is very jealous. And, you know, it's a little bit different, you know, but that's kind of the overall goal anyway. As you see it with Kabuto, you see it with Obito, you see it with a bunch of other villains, specifically the villains, where they don't really have parents. They don't really have any sort of connection to reality. And I've talked about this before, where one of the top things where you have with villains is they don't have any connections to the broader society, especially any positive connections. The one thing is we saw Orochimaru as a kid. We never met his parents. He was not really even close with Tsunade and Jiraiya. He wasn't even really close with them. You know, like he wasn't really participating with them at all anyway. Orochimaru only had subordinates. He only had people he could manipulate around him. So that teaches you that he's evil as fuck, right? Because he's the one character I've seen on this show that really didn't have friends. And Madara even had a friend. Hashirama was his friend. You know, Orochimaru, I've never seen him with a friend. Like he never had friends. So it was an interesting thing. But you see as all these characters find different ways of isolating each other. You know, they're on their own for whatever reason. Some of them are not strong enough, you know, like Obito, who's kind of weak. Naruto is another one. Some of them are too powerful, therefore they're scary. Gaara being one of those guys, and nobody wanted to be friends with Gaara because Gaara was scary and he was a bloodthirsty monster and all this kind of stuff. And not having those connections is what makes them a villain. You know, that's what makes them a villain. And Naruto, especially at the end, well, at the last part that I started watching, is you started to see that Naruto, with the death of Neji, talks about how friendship makes you stronger. And of course, Obito doesn't believe that at all. You know, he doesn't really believe that these friendships or these relationships are making you stronger. He thinks they make you weaker. He thinks they're a distraction. But at the same time, he kind of wants that because he wants to be involved with the infinite Tsukiyomi so everything can be the way he wants it to be. He has these big dreams, and this stuff is not going to come to reality because Ren got killed. So it's over. He can't have Ren, but he could if he was to fall under the Tsukiyomi, and Madara can make whatever he wants happen. He can give him Ren back, right? That's what you would. That's what you'd be thinking. He can bring her back. Of course, he probably could have already brought her back with the reanimation jutsu, but I mean, did anybody think about that? I don't know. I have no idea. I completely got lost in what the fuck Zetsu is. I don't know what the fuck that thing is. I keep hearing that it's made of Hashirama's cells. Hashirama, of course, is the first Hokage who did battle with Madara. He's great, but when they started talking about the ghetto statue and how it's the husk of the Ten Tails, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck that thing is. All I know is they said it's an artificial human. So I'm like, okay, good. It's artificial. I don't need to know. It's not human. All right. So Zetsu is not human. Zetsu essentially raising Obito is very interesting. Giving him the entire right side of his body back by infusing him with the Hashirama cells, which of course gives him the Sharingan, because he said you have to, well, not the Sharingan, but the Rinnegan. Because you have to have Hashirama cells and all that kind of stuff in order to have both the Sharingan and the Rinnegan. You're gonna have to have Uchiha and Hashirama cells. So that's the only way to control the Ten Tails. I think that's what the case is. I like, that Obito is the one who tried to, bring in the Akatsuki. And I like the name that they had the name the Akatsuki before they met him. So Yohiko, Nagato, and all of them, they have formed the Akatsuki with other war orphans and other individuals before they even met Obito. But it was Obito who kind of just infiltrated their organization and basically took it over and turned it into what it is. Very interestingly, another Obito thing is that Kakashi basically tells him, like, essentially, you died a hero, man. Like, you don't have to come back and do this shit. When you died a hero. And Obito didn't give a fuck about that. He don't give a fuck about dying a hero. That sucks. That's a shitty idea. It sucks to be dead. But it won't matter anyway, because once they win, they're going to take over, right? And they're going to brainwash everybody to thinking he's the greatest hero of all time anyway. It was really sad that they killed Shikamaru and Ino's fathers by having the Ten-Tail Beast bomb like entire villages. Now, of course, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, you see entire towns getting eliminated. You think, what a big deal. But in the Naruto universe, this is a big deal. Like them, the comets coming down, the mountains splitting, the towns being destroyed by the Ten Tails. This stuff is legit chaos. This is shit that they've never seen before. This is shit they've never experienced before. This is shit they've never even thought possible before. Like, yes, in Dragon Ball Z, they can just do all kinds of wild shit and destroy planets or whatever. But it's interesting also that even though it's sort of smaller scale violence, it's far more horrifying because you've never seen this shit before. Because this guy split two mountains. You're like, holy shit. Because nobody else has done it. So you're like, oh my God. what the hell are they gonna do now? What you gonna do now, boy? This guy gonna drop a planet on your head. What you gonna do now, boy? Like I'm very interested in how you're gonna stop this. The death of Shikamaru's father was really sad. I'm not at the end yet, Bennett. It's not over yet. But so it'll probably be over by the time I watch this. I come back next week. But I found it was very interesting. I thought it was fun. Neji sacrificed himself for Hinata, which completed his character arc from way back in the original Naruto. So I don't know what took so long. Like it took him out of the story for, I don't know, forever. If you watch Shippuden and then watch the original, you don't really get why Neji was an important character outside of the flashbacks. And him having sort of the slave mark on his head, and that kind of controls his powers and abilities and stuff like that. And Obito kind of really drives the nail in. I like this because it's a villain monologue, but it's really good. Where as Naruto is holding Neji's body, I think it might have been it probably wasn't Naruto. It was probably Bushibrow. He was holding Neji, and Neji is dead. And Obito's like, this is reality. Everybody you love, everybody you know is going to die. Everybody's dead. Jiraiya is dead. Neji's dead. All these other people who are surrounding you, all these people are dead. Or they're going to die. And we're going to kill them. And this is the reality that you want. But we can escape this reality. There's a way out. But you learned through Hinata that she gives him these words of encouragement about making Neji's sacrifice matter. And I thought that was really good. I thought that was really nice. And Naruto doesn't find strength in cutting the bonds, which is what Obito's strength was. Obito snapped once Ren died, and he decided, fuck Kakashi, fuck the Leaf, fuck everybody. I'm out for self, and that made him more powerful. But Naruto, of course, he's the hero. He realizes that in death, that brings us together, right? Like a funeral. A funeral brings everybody together. Neji dying empowered everybody who knew him. It was very sad. It was very sad for them, especially since, if I remember correctly, Neji is the first peer of Naruto that gets killed. I think Gaara died, but he was resurrected pretty almost immediately, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But of somebody in Naruto's age group that was killed, I think Neji is the first one. So it brings it home even more, because now somebody you literally grew up with is a victim in this situation. And it makes it more personal. And so Naruto finds that his power isn't in severing the bonds, but in strengthening them. And so he sort of comes together with Kurama, and they start to share the Nine Tails power among all the allied forces. And as he starts to share all of this power among the allied forces, they start to fight back. Of course, at this point in time, right before he does that, Kakashi, of course, has to admit that he couldn't save all his comrades either. Of course, he has to admit that he let Ren die and he killed her. But we don't know if that was an illusion or what happened. We don't know yet. But we just know the story from Obito's perspective, which could not be true because he might have been getting manipulated by Madara. This is interesting. So Orochimaru gets his arms back from that thing that stole his arms back when the third Hokage trapped his arms or some shit behind some kind of demon wall. He lost his reanimation jutsu to bring all of the Hokage back, which includes Naruto's daddy, and the first, second, third, and fourth Hokages. The first Hokage is a bit of a goof, Hashirama. He's a fun character. He doesn't take anything too seriously. The second Hokage absolutely hates the Uchiha. He hates them with every fiber of his being, which is great. He thinks that they're evil. He thinks the Uchiha are evil, and he's mostly right. There's no babyface Uchiha in this series, at least not yet. So when you look at what he might mean in terms of the Uchiha is basically an evil bloodline, it's like, have you seen any good ones? I didn't. I ain't seen a good one yet. I saw some ones who have potential to be good, and all of them have potential to be good. Like Obito seemed like he might have been, one of the better ones. And then, of course, he was brainwashed by Madara, even though he was trapped inside that. I don't know. He was trapped inside that room for how long? I don't know, like 5 years or something like that. So he's brainwashed over the course of several years in order to do all this. And of course, Sasuke wants more. He wants to interrogate the third Hokage about fucking Itachi. I don't care. I did not care. I did not give a shit. The second Hokage breaks down the Uchiha power set about how the Sharingan is connected to their heart and their brain and all this kind of stuff. And then I kind of ended it where Hashirama and Madara's friendship, their somewhat rivalry from childhood. And I think the last episode that I watched was where Hashirama is going to be told to spy on Madara. So, that's kind of where it is. But every relationship in Naruto begins with childhood, and it doesn't begin. It's like you don't meet any friends as an adult. No friends as an adult. So it's really fun. Again, too many flashbacks, way too many flashbacks. They redeem too many villains. I can already tell they're gonna redeem Obito. I can see it coming. But Obito, you can't redeem mass murderers. There are certain characters that you just cannot redeem. And trying to redeem mass murderers just doesn't make any sense. Like trying to babyface Itachi. They trying very, very hard to babyface Itachi. It's like, bro, let it go. He murdered his family. You're like, it's over. Once you make that decision to murder your entire clan, it's over, bro. Like you can't go back on that one. You may have had a good reason to do it. Maybe you had a little set aside, you had a little soft spot for your little brother. You have to think about the greater good. Yes, I get that, but you're a mass murderer, bro. I'm sorry. No, you can't redeem you. Kabuto was another one. They didn't really try to redeem Kabuto, though. But they just kind of showed how Kabuto never really had a good life, and it was always going to end this way for him because he continuously fell under the sway of evil people, either by force or by choice. But it was another one where they tried to take that Kabuto really just didn't have a choice in the matter. He was kind of recruited to be a double agent and was kind of forced into it. And he was doing it for the orphanage at first. And, I'm like, oh, come on. Can we just, I would love for this show to just have a fucking cackling Majin Buu. I'm doing shit because I want to villain. That's what I like about Orochimaru. Orochimaru was like, let's cut open some people. Let's go and absolutely go and do some murdering for research purposes. I'm not. That's the one thing about the show I don't like, and I don't like it. I don't like when Dragon Ball does it either. I don't like when anybody does it. I feel like we can have villains, and villains can have sympathetic backstories. They can have tough times. They can fight through adversity and all that kind of shit. But ultimately, you need to see that evil is a choice that they made, because it is. Evil is not something that was. Sometimes it's not even something that was bred in them or born in them, because you're not really born evil. Nobody's ever born evil. Evil is a choice. You know, Itachi did have a choice. You know, but it seems to me that, you know, they think, and they meaning people who do this stuff, that humanizing these characters, you know, that's the thing about Piccolo and Vegeta weren't evil. You know, they weren't inherently evil. They made the choice to be evil. Like Piccolo was born with a desire for revenge, right? Vegeta, you know, was motivated by his hatred of Frieza and his love of power. And you have to let that stuff go. You have to you realize Vegeta made a choice to be evil, right? When he killed all those people in the stadium, he made a decision. And he had to sacrifice himself for that decision. He made a decision. Itachi, the same thing. Itachi had to sacrifice himself before the decision that he made. He regretted making that decision. He realizes it was a bad decision, but he still made the fucking decision. And that's just like every motherfucker in jail. Every motherfucker in jail is probably like, man, I shouldn't even done that. I feel bad about robbing that old lady. I feel bad about beating up my old lady, beating up my wife or whatever. You know, all this kind of stuff. I feel bad about it. But it's a fucking choice that I made. It's a decision that I made. You know, yeah, Piccolo didn't really kill any innocents. He just had that Demon King Piccolo thing that was within him. Demon King Piccolo did kill innocent people though. he did. And he unleashed Tambourine, who ended up murdering Krillin. So that was kind of fucked up. But you know, evil is a choice. It's based on your decisions that you make. You're willing to step on other people, crush them in order to get what you want. You just can't back away from that. And too many of these writers, they try to back away from that. Oh, he didn't have a choice in the matter. It's like, well, he did. This dude murdered numerous people. It'd have been one thing if he'd killed one person and then was like, you know what, I can't do this. You can probably come back from one murder. But you slaughter your whole clan. I don't care how many flashbacks you do, bro. I'm never going to get out of my mind that you murdered your entire clan, including your fucking parents. And they even tried to redeem him even further by having his parents know that he was going to do it and sort of forgive him before he did it. You know, like that was so weird. It was so weird that Itachi's parents was just sitting there kind of like, take care of Sasuke. I'm like, what? You have this, what? I'm like, oh man. Oh brother. Oh brother. Yeah, Vegeta he destroyed entire civilizations. He just wrecked everything. He was a bad dude, man. He was not a good dude. Vegeta was not good. He made a decision to not be good. He just made the decision when he went to Namek. They killed all those Nameks, you know? And it's very weird that you have like these characters. Like, it's the same thing with Majin Buu. Like Majin Buu, like killed a bunch of people, and now he's like eating ice cream and chilling out at Capsule Corp. Like, what the fuck? Hey, get this guy the fuck out of here. He's a murderer. He's a multiple-time murderer. Now, with Majin Buu, it's a little bit different, though, because, you know, he has these different incarnations. And, you know, incarnations are a little worse than others. And plus, Majin Buu doesn't seem to be a character that can do too much thinking. So, it's just not. As far as I know, Orochimaru is 100% evil. I think that you can have some redemption. I believe in redemption. I believe that you can attempt to do better. And I think that's what they're doing with like Itachi, where they're trying to explain why he did what he did. And then he's going to try to make things right, you know, or at least make things as right as they can be. But ultimately, he's fucking dead. And he should be dead and should have been dead sooner, you know. But he also was not killed by Sasuke. I don't understand why they keep saying that Sasuke killed Itachi. Like, no, he didn't. He burned out. Like, It's one of those things where, and it seems to be another recurring theme in Naruto, where the villain just burns themselves out. They have tons and tons of chakra. They do a ton of big moves, and as you know, I have no chakra, but I'm not going to stop fighting. Kishimaru was the same thing. But when it comes to Itachi, he was just Sharinganing himself into the grave. Every time he used it, he started bleeding from the eyes and nose and everything. And he looked sickly, like he was half dead when they started that shit anyway. So that's the one good thing about death, I guess you could say, is that when you get killed, you do have the opportunity to be redeemed or to at least let some of the weight off your chest. And that's really when Vegeta got killed the first time and he cried, is that he realized that his life wasn't his own. He was manipulated and pushed by Frieza to do all of these horrible things. Still a decision that he made, but he felt like it wasn't in his hands because Frieza is so powerful and had destroyed all and killed all his people and everything. And it just very difficult for him. But it was a decision that he made to be a stooge of Frieza, and he did what he could to make it right. He tried to kill Frieza. He tried to kill Frieza more than once, but it just wasn't going to work out for him. It just wasn't going to work out. And you know what? Despite, I think, and I was a huge Vegeta fan. I still am, but I used to get so angry when they had Vegeta fight perfect form Frieza. And he couldn't touch him. I got so angry. I was like, what the fuck? You mean he's like launching all of these energy blasts at Frieza? He can't fucking, Frieza slipping them shits and just dodging them shits. But then you realize this is all part of Vegeta needing to be humbled. He had to be humbled. His character he's fucking evil. You shouldn't want Vegeta to succeed. But it's heel versus heel in this scenario. Vegeta had just tried to bail on Piccolo and Gohan, not an episode or two before that, So you realize that you don't really want Vegeta to succeed at that point. You want him to suffer. He murdered a bunch of Nameks. He tried to bail on Piccolo and Gohan after talking them into helping him. He tried to bail on them. You realize that he's a coward. He's full of shit. And now he feels like he can fight Frieza and he can't. He fell short. You want him to get embarrassed. And then him getting killed. Okay. He got what he deserved. He was an asshole. He deserved to get killed. And he got killed, which is great. And then Frieza deserved to get killed, and then that didn't happen because Goku was a good guy. Instead, he let Frieza live. And then he got chopped up by Trunks, which he did deserve. Homelander and the boys is the closest thing to Lucifer on Earth, and isn't painted as a misunderstood character by the writers. I don't know. Are you talking about Homelander in the comic book or Homelander in the TV show? I haven't seen either one, but I don't know. There was a question in here that I thought was very interesting. Somebody asked me if I'm reading the manga or just watching the cartoon. I'm watching the anime. I don't know how long that fucking manga is. Maybe one day I'll read. I still haven't read the Dragon Ball manga. I love Dragon Ball. I still have not read the Dragon Ball manga. I'm going to start getting into it eventually, but I just feel like I know Dragon Ball so well that I don't need to read the manga. And that's kind of how I felt. That's kind of how I feel about Naruto now, too. Like, I feel like I've seen so much of it that what would I be reading the manga for? But I don't know. But that's also why I'm reading the Attack on Titan manga, because I wanted to get the story straight from the source first before I watch too much of the anime. Yeah, I would imagine that's the thing about Dragon Ball is I watched Dragon Ball all the way through from beginning. I'm talking episode 1 all the way to the end so many times that I know the filler backwards and forwards, including the manga stuff. So I don't feel like I need to read the Dragon Ball manga. I will eventually one day, but I'm not in a rush. The Dragon Ball manga is always in print too. And I think that and Naruto, since it's always in print, there's no rush for me to get it. but some manga is not really in print that much. So it's you kind of have to get on it while you can, because next thing you know, that shit won't even be available for you to see anymore. All right. We talked about Naruto. We talked about this. I spent almost an hour on Naruto. All right, so let's talk about Inuyasha. So Inuyasha, there's far more drama in Inuyasha. I mean, soap opera drama in Inuyasha than I remember. And I'm sure it was written by a woman, even though I do know for sure it's written by a woman. Naraku remains one of my favorite villains. He is so good at just being so dastardly, and it's a very interesting, like, the origin that they give for Naraku. That he's Onigumo, this thief who was burned and immobile, who sort of fell in love with this priestess who took care of him. But he's fucking evil. And he came to be envious of, people who could interact with Kikyo and could be with her. And he gave his body to the demons. And the demons, did what's called Kudoku. It is it's an old black magic thing where you put a lot of poisonous creatures into one bowl and they let them kill each other. And then the one that comes out is the strongest of all. So essentially what Naraku is inside of Onigumo's body are all of these demons, that went into his body, and now all of them exist. And Naraku is the strongest of them all. That is like a completely different entity, which uses Onigumo. It's not even using Onigumo's body because he has a new body now, but he's a new life form. And that's the thing about Inuyasha. The Inuyasha is a great show that nobody remembers because it used to come on Toonami, and it's really good. I really like Inuyasha, and I think most people, if you remind them of Inuyasha, they will say, "Oh, I like Inuyasha," yada yada, but they don't rate it. But I love Inuyasha. That's the reason I'm watching it again, because I didn't get to see the ending. It was just so much. It's just so much stuff, and a lot of it is blue sky material that because they're chasing these jewel shards. So it's like, it's a jewel shard in that demon. Destroy the demon, get the jewel shard. Okay, great. And then there's like whole amounts of the time before we can get a jewel shard because now Naraku has all of them. But they bring back Kikyo, and Kikyo is a very interesting character. I have a friend who was huge into Inuyasha, and she hates Kikyo because she's a big Kagome fan. It's one of those things like Twilight, like which girl should Inuyasha go out with? It's like fucking Kagome is 15. Like, it's so weird. That's another thing with Moroku. We're going to talk about it in a minute. Him hitting on underage girls. And they tried to explain it in the series, like, oh, it was a different time. That was Kagome's mindset, like, oh, it was a different time back then. When Moroku was asking like 12-year-old girls to have his baby. It was so gross. I forgot all about that. Like, I forgot 100% forgot about Moroku being a pedo. He's not really a pedo because he didn't have sex with her. But and he asked every woman that same question, so it was a little weird, but it was odd. But having that sort of will they, won't they, tug of war thing. But the Kikyo angle is that you see that Kikyo, before she dies, she is an almost angelic creature. She's perfect in pretty much every way. She's incredibly powerful. She's morally upright. She sees the best in people. She can see beyond your flaws, which is why Inuyasha likes her. She saw beyond Inuyasha's desires to be a full-fledged demon. She actually talks to him and saying, hey, if you wanted to be a full-fledged, you could also be a human if you wanted to. And they come up with this idea that they're going to make Inuyasha human so that they could be together. And that's what's in Inuyasha's mind is, I'm going to get the jewel shard, become a full human, and I'm going to get to be with Kikyo, until we both die together. And that ought to be great. It's very romantic. And then Naraku happens, like as Onigumo, he also wants to be with Kikyo, and he's not going to let this happen. So he, undergoes this transformation, and as the trickster demon Naraku, he starts basically fucking up everybody's life. And I just love the Naraku because when he gets involved, things immediately get worse. Immediately. It goes beyond bad when Naraku gets involved. It's just so fucked up. And he's irredeemable. Like, there is no attempts to redeem Naraku at this point. The only thing you do see from Naraku that might seem in any way human is that he has a sort of inability to kill Kikyo. He can't do it himself, not with his hands. So he sends another demon to kill her. But that's his only weakness, is that he still has Onigumo's heart. But there is no redemption for Naraku. There's not even a little bit of attempt of redemption. Everything he does is more evil than the last thing that he did. He's got he knows everything about the heroes in terms of how their powers work. He knows the relationships between these different characters. And the amount of bodies that stack up when Naraku is around is just amazing shit. Like, he destroyed the entire Koga's entire wolf tribe. Just led them to a castle and killed them all. Fuck them, kill them all. All of them. It's just like, damn. Fucking around, like, he's just slaughtering whole villages. It's just like, fuck these people. And it's frightening because it's like, and especially in modern anime, there's so much push and pull with these characters where you feel bad for them or whatever, but Naraku, nah, fuck that. We're gonna kill him. We're gonna kill them all. He tricked Sango's little brother into murdering his father, murdering all of his friends. He murdered the entire Demon Slayer village. He just killed all of them for a jewel shard. Like, that just goes to, if I started to put over how important the jewel shards are, but it also puts over like how bloody fucking evil Naraku is. And you think that there's no depth to his depravity, but each time it gets worse. Like, he realizes that he doesn't need Kohaku anymore, who's Sango's little brother. He resurrected this kid by putting a fucking jewel shard in his back and sent him to kill his own sister. Like, it's fucking evil, bro. Like, that's a bad dude, man. He's a bad dude. So they managed to survive that. Kohaku starts getting his memory back. He has his own life again. For somehow there's corpses walking around with their own lives. Kikyo's also doing it. And he decides he's going to kill Kohaku by taking the jewel shard back. So Kohaku is going to run away from him. He runs into Sango, ends up finding him. He doesn't remember her. She has to remind him of who she is. And then Naraku, flips the switch again. He tries to get Kohaku to kill Kagome. It's like really just infinite traps for Naraku. It's fantastic shit. I love Inuyasha. I don't know what it is about Japan and why so many of their anime have perv characters, but they're almost always the most entertaining character though, because it's almost always played up for comedy, and they usually have good traits too. Like, the perviness is just one aspect of their character, which is interesting because a lot of people are talking about Chainsaw Man right now, and there's a lot of talk about Denji. And about Denji wanting to touch boobs. And everybody's like, oh, why is he such a pervert? It's like, Denji is literally like a swamp rat. Like, he's a kid who didn't even have a house before. Like, he was sleeping in garbage cans, eating out of the garbage. He was selling his kidneys. He sold an eye for money. Denji's fucking poor. He had nothing. All he really wanted out of life was food and shelter. Now that he's got that, he wants a little affection too. He wants to touch a boob. But it's not really even about sex for him. It's about affection. But they really hate Mineta from My Hero Academia. There's so much hate for that little grapefruit. I love Mineta. Same way I love like Jiraiya and Master Roshi and Moroku. They go too far from time to time. That's just the Japanese sense of humor when it comes to the perv characters. But I love the perv character. It's great. It works out. That it brings a lot of comedy relief to the series, and then you allow them to grow. They showed like Mineta showed quite a few times in My Hero Academia that he's a true heroic character. That he really will go out there and put his life on. His power is literally to throw things that stuck to his head and stick to other things. That is not a horrible character. That's not a great power. He putting his life on the line every time he leaves his house. It's not like Mineta's like super strong and can force you to do anything. He's small, he's meek, but by God is he horny. He's the horniest little son of a bitch on the planet. And he's a teenage boy, so it makes sense. It's not the same as the old pervert, And that's what makes Moroku even funnier, because he's not old or young. He's kind of like that mid-20s pervert, where everything is like great. My Hero Academia is Japanese X-Men. Yeah, I guess you could say that. That's fair. It's better than the X-Men, though, especially X-Men today. Yeah, I like Mineta. Mineta is awesome. He's a fun little character. He doesn't get in the way too much. He adds more than he subtracts, I think. But I don't really mind the perv character. It's like, so what? I'm a little bit more bothered by Cheesecake than most people. Like Fire Force had a little too much Cheesecake for me, where the female character finds herself undressed in like the weirdest points in time. It's like it breaks the seriousness of the part of the show that she's in, and all of a sudden her top flies off, or something have her boobs pop out. It's kind of like, there's time and place for that. You need to time that shit better. We're in a serious thing right here, and can't have her boobs and shit popping out. So that kind of stuff, I'll agree with the feminists that maybe we should cool it with that. But having perv characters, nah. Especially teenage boy perv characters, nah, man. Go for it. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Yeah, Tamaki. I keep getting her mixed up with the other one. I know that she kind of looks like another female character on that show. I lost interest in Fire Force. I don't know. Right around the time, what was this? What was the most recent season? I forget which season it was, but I didn't even finish it. I was just kind of like, I don't know. I liked it, but then they started getting into the whole fire religion thing. They went out there to the desert world, swamp world, or something like that, and they were doing all that shit. And I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we'll see it. Yeah, Maki and Tamaki. Yeah, it's very weird. But Fire Force is okay. It's okay. Maybe I'll continue watching it, I think. But that's that kind of fan service we really don't need. Well, it's kind of unnecessary and comes out of nowhere. But just because a character has big boobs, it's like, it's shonen. It's for teenage boys. It just so happens that grown men also like it because it's got boobs in it. So it's got boobs, but they don't really do anything with the boobs. The boobs are just there. It's not like, I think Chainsaw Man is one of the few times where, boobs it exists, but you don't do anything with them. Like you have some gigantic titties and nobody ever talks about them. Nobody ever touches them or anything. I really want to know what's the anime equivalent to Iron Man or Captain America. I'm pretty sure it's out there somewhere, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it may say like Kamen Rider or something like that for Iron Man. Bishop Marley, is it works in that culture because, like you said, they always have another trait that makes you like them. In American culture, most perverts aren't played with any redeeming qualities. Well, that's true. That is true. But you know, you have these characters that in Japan they try to make. They also like to give them. Uh, uh, they're almost always a good guy. Like the pervs are very rarely the villains in Japan. Have I watched Death Note? Of course I've watched Death Note. I love Death Note. Death Note is tremendous. Marvel Zombie is TVMA, have blood and gore. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I have any interest in Marvel Zombies. Maybe it depends. All right. So can we get to the feature video of this thing? I don't know. It's up to you guys. But we're gonna get into Bob Chapek, who I was gonna talk about Kanye West too, but I decided not to. We're gonna talk about something lighthearted. But we are gonna talk about rap a little bit later. Probably a lot later. Because I also want to talk about horror movies. All right, so Bob Chapek, the CEO of Disney, he clearly doesn't understand the assignment because he thinks that adults don't like animated movies. We're going to play some of the audio that apparently he made this comment, and then we're going to get into it. I'm going to use The Incredibles as a really good example because I love The Incredibles. I think it's probably some of the best Disney stuff made in the last 20 years. So we're also going to play, what is this? Guillermo del Toro. I'm going to play some audio from him too. But let's listen to the 19 seconds of Bob Chapek. Let's see what he has to say about this kind of stuff.
I always say that our fans and our audiences put their kids to bed at night after watching Pinocchio or Dumbo or Little Mermaid. They're probably not going to tune into another animated movie. They want something for them. I always say.
So they want something for them. He thinks that Pinocchio or Dumbo or whatever cannot really be appreciated by adults. This guy, we're going to talk about Bob Chapek a little bit, but he doesn't understand the assignment at all. He does not understand the assignment or whatsoever. So let's let Guillermo del Toro explain to him what this is, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
14 years to get to this moment. Yeah. Finally at the premiere. How does it feel to be here at the finish line?
It's half my career, so it feels really.
You're talking about Pinocchio.
Here finally. You know, we had a long road, many hours and years of work of dozens and hundreds and thousands of artists, and we wanted to show that animation is not a genre for kids, it's a medium. Animation is art, and it tells stories that are gorgeous and complex, that feel handmade by humans for humans.
Congratulations on finally getting to this point.
So there's the idea that animation is just another means of storytelling, which is absolutely true. So Brad Bird, who wrote the second Incredibles movie, I think he wrote the first one too. He said, quote, "The point is animation is not a genre. It is a method of storytelling. People are constantly analyzing it and misanalyzing it as if it was a genre. It isn't a genre. It can do horror movies. It can do comedies if it wanted to. It could do fairy tales. It could do science fiction. It could do musicals. It could do mystery. It could do anything." That is absolutely true. Animated movies are literally just another way of telling stories. Before we get into my thoughts, even though those are my thoughts, and it doesn't make much sense, let's talk about this Ned Flanders in the flesh, Matt Walsh. Let's hear what this guy has to say about anime. And we're going to talk about all this stuff together.
What's your opinion on anime? It's really popular amongst teens and young adults. I think it's all satanic. I have no argument for it. I have no argument for why it's satanic. It just seems that way to me. All anime to me seems weird, just like bizarre, creepy. And in general, I don't think that adults should be, whether it's anime or any other kind of cartoon, with rare exception, adults really should be watching cartoons in general, I would say.
So you got permanent adulting. It's a similar thing to what we got from Alan Moore. We talked about this before. Is one adult trying to tell other adults how to spend their time and what they should be interested in. We should all be dry toast and missionary sex guys like Matt Walsh. And I could go into the politics of this, which I think most people have already done because this has been out for 2 weeks already, where people have basically talked about Matt Walsh is in that adults shouldn't watch anime, it's satanic. Adults shouldn't watch cartoons, it's childish. That these things are the reason why conservatives politically will never win. They have a hatred of anything different. They don't understand people have different interests. They don't understand that people have different, and it's a weird thing that you try to raise other adults. But here's the thing that really kind of caught my attention is that Matt Walsh, I've seen Matt Walsh sit in awe of Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson has watched cartoons. Jordan Peterson has lectures breaking down Pinocchio, Beauty and the Beast, Peter Pan. He's watched these movies hundreds of times in order to pull apart all the things that he pulls apart on these movies, especially for his collegiate lectures. And I've seen Matt Walsh sit in deference to Jordan Peterson. Clearly, an adult watched these cartoons, okay, and understood them, right? The problem that we have here is that I think these people don't really understand who the audience is for these movies and TV shows when they make them. Disney, of course, has been targeting children forever. But if you take some of the best stuff that they do, a lot of the stuff has very adult themes to it. And The Incredibles is a great example. I love The Incredibles. Both of them, both movies. And but first, before we get into The Incredibles, let's talk about Bob Chapek. And I'm going to tell you why he missed the assignment so strongly. Bob Chapek has never worked in any means of storytelling. Bob Chapek became Disney CEO in 2020. He's got 30 years at Disney. He was the chairman of Disney's parks, experiences, and products before he was the CEO. Before that, he was a chairman of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts. Before that, he was president of Disney's consumer products, and he was in distribution before that. He was not in any way involved with the creation of content for Disney. So now he's the CEO. He's put in position to decide what the content should be. And he decides that, you know what? These things, they aren't for adults. Like, are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Right? Like, I understand that adults might not be the target audience. That's like, I have a hard time getting girls into shonen. Shonen is not, you have to be a certain kind of girl to be interested in shonen. Because it's not targeted to girls. It's targeted to boys. Oh yeah, it's satanic. Anime is satanic. It's retarded. But that's just Matt Walsh being Matt Walsh. And I think that, and I'll say it again, I think Matt Walsh's comments were mostly tongue-in-cheek. I think he mostly was being sarcastic. I think it's mostly a joke. But that is the kind of, I've seen him tweet out some of the most ridiculous shit. Adult men shouldn't wear book bags. I've seen him tweet about stuff like that. Carry a briefcase, or you should always have a suit. It's always the most boring, mundane, it's all bologna sandwich and cheese with fucking Matt Walsh. That fucking guy sucks. Like, he might be right on certain things. Like, I watched his documentary on What is a Woman? It was good, but there are other times where he says shit that is so just brain rottingly dumb that you it's hilarious how stupid some and it comes from a place of ignorance. That's the problem with conservatives. So many conservatives are so fucking closed-minded. He wouldn't even know that some of the most popular media that ever came from Japan to the United States is Christian in nature. There are Christians in Japan. Zelda was originally a Christian themed story, and you could talk to other Christians about. They took it out in order to make it more universal, but there used to be Christian themes in Zelda. Samurai Champloo is all about Christianity and how Christianity was suppressed in Japan. Trigun was heavily Christian themed, became big in the United States. They're remaking it. It got so popular in in the United States. There's all kinds of stuff that can be Christian or Buddhist or whatever. None of it has anything to do with fucking Satan. But that's just him being fucking dumb, right? He's just dumb, So I don't know. It seems like he does nothing but sit by his fireplace and read the Bible. That's fucking boring. Nobody wants to live like that. That's a boring fucking existence, bro. Everybody wants to dress like a lumberjack every day, carry their bologna and cheese sandwich to the office, drink plain water all the time. Like, come on. For Christ's sake, let people have fun. So it's embarrassing. It's truly embarrassing. And this is one of the most embarrassing things for people that, at the Daily Wire, because they come across as trying to be like hip and cool and we're trying to subvert Hollywood and all that kind of shit. And then the first fucking movie that they make features a woman with a gun, which triggered so many other people on the right that made it funny. I forget what the movie is, Terror on the Prairie or something like that, with Gina Carano. I'll never forget that. It could lean into the Kanye West conversation, but I'm not going to do that right now. But some people was like, "Oh, Daily Wire is making movies, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, they're making movies." It was like, "Did you know the guys who own Daily Wire?" I was like, "Don't go there. I know them. I know who they are." And they said, "Well, do you know that the first movie is going to feature a woman with a shotgun, and her husband gets killed?" I was like, "Oh, really?" So basically, the same Hollywood format, just under the Daily Wire banner. Yeah. I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's bad or not. I just thought it was funny. It wasn't traditional gender roles. It was Gina Carano as a badass fighting off home invaders or something like that. Okay, sure, whatever you say. But if Hollywood would have made that movie, people would have been pretty much upset, right? All right. Anyway, back to Bob Chapek and Disney. When you make something, the problem with modern animation is not that it's not for adults. It's that it's literally only for the adults. Disney movies nowadays are not made for children to enjoy. They have songs, they have dance, they're colorful. You would think on the surface, those are for children. They are not. That stuff is for the adults. Because a lot of this stuff is about validating what adults think about the world. Right? That's what it's about. It's not about teaching you anything. It's not about, having any type of lesson. It is all about, hey, we're going to do Encanto because we got to have Hispanic representation. That is not for the Hispanic children. It is for the Hispanic adults who want Encanto or wanted something like it. That had nothing to do with the fucking kids. Frozen, the remake of Frozen, not even the first one, the second one. That was not for the kids. That was for the adults because they started changing the characters and stuff like that from what I've heard. I haven't seen Frozen personally, but almost everybody I know that has children that has seen Frozen, they talked about how it became different when they came out with the second one, and the second one wasn't as well liked because they changed the characters so much. Disney is starting to lean more towards the adults, and that's part of the problem. He thinks Pinocchio and Dumbo, which is like the thing about family-friendly stuff, is that it appeals to the entire family. That includes the children, but there's things in it that the adults can appreciate too. Now, when you got something that the adults don't really care about, they're looking at their phone typing, and you got these flashy, dancy characters on the screen singing about how anybody could be a boy or anybody could be a girl, or singing in Spanish or whatever the hell because you want to social engineer people. Then the parents aren't even paying attention. No, they don't want that for them. But there's plenty of adults who are taken into animation and Disney animation. Like the first thing I thought of when I saw that is like, man, Studio Ghibli's gonna beat their ass because they've been beating them to death over the. If Disney was not Disney, if people looked at storytelling based off of real storytelling and imagination and ingenuity and stuff like that, something like Spirited Away, something like Princess Mononoke, Howl's Floating Castle blow Disney out of the fucking water. I'm talking like the imagination, the fantasy, all that kind of stuff blows Disney out of the fucking water. Disney can't do anything but remake the same shit over and over again. Cars 6, Toy Story 9. That's the only thing they can really do. They've gutted and ripped the heart out of every single franchise that they've owned because they're soulless fucking vultures. That's what they do. But it wasn't always that way. And The Incredibles was really good. The Incredibles was really good. I particularly loved the first one. The second one was okay too, but I loved the first one. If you can watch, now this is a family movie, both of them, The Incredibles. They're not for children though, because a lot of the themes that you get out of these things, they are. Now, hold on, Ali Hankerson. Hold on now. Hold on. We could talk about Beavis and Butthead and Invincible and Aeon Flux and a lot of, Samurai Jack, a lot of the more mature cartoons. South Park, The Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad, King of the Hill, Archer. We can talk about all that stuff. Archer is not meant to be watched by children, and neither was South Park. All right, neither was Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead wasn't nearly as bad as most of the shit that's on TV nowadays, and it was considered horrible for its time. But it wasn't nearly as bad as most of this shit that's on TV now. If we are being honest, this guy does not know what adults want. He does not know his own audience. I'm not even talking about the Disney adults, the people who don't have kids, who travel all the way to Disney World because they want to ride the rides and dress up like Cinderella and all that shit. I'm talking about people like me. I will watch a Disney movie if it's good. And I don't care what the fucking characters look like. They could be cars, they could be bugs, they could be fly swatters. I don't give a fuck. If I feel like you're telling a decent story here or you're doing something interesting, I'll watch it. I'm one of the few adults that have actually watched Wreck-It Ralph and enjoyed it. I thought Wreck-It Ralph was fucking good. I liked it. Almost every other adult that I know who tried to watch Wreck-It Ralph has hated it. But there have been plenty of animated movies like Ants, A Bug's Life, and stuff like that I skipped. I'm not going to watch it. I don't care. It doesn't look interesting. All right? But The Incredibles, I really love The Incredibles. And if you look at The Incredibles, you cannot tell me this was for children. Mr. Incredible in the first movie, it is a critique of modern manhood and society. He goes from being this strong, lionized superhero into this fat, depressed husk of society. He's, just this big guy in a cubicle. He's lost his luster. He's not nearly the man that he used to be. And then throughout the first movie, you see that he starts doing hero work and he starts getting his confidence back. He starts to work out again. And then him and his wife are pinching each other on the butt. They're kissing a lot more. The sex life goes up. Oh, this is a kid's movie. This is a kid's movie. And we have, him and his wife flirting with each other, kissing each other, touching each other on the butt. He goes out of the office. He goes out for the office, rather. And she pulls him back in with her elastic arms and stuff like that. When you look at that kind of stuff, man, you can't tell me that was for children. That was for the adults. That was to teach grown men you need to have a purpose in life. This was, Mr. Incredible. This was his purpose. His purpose was to be a superhero. This is what gives him confidence. This is what brings home the bacon for him and his family. This is what he wants to do with his life. This is what he's meant to do. And it motivates him. It gets him up in the morning. He does everything, surviving around him being a hero. And when it was taken away from him, he felt like a bird in a cage. The Incredibles is fantastic. It's literally amazing. Unfortunately, they take him out of the second movie. He's out of most of the second movie too, because they decided to do a little bit of role reversal. Now I know most people, when they talked about Incredibles 2, it became a bunch of, it was feminist and all that kind of stuff. But they did an entire character arc for Mr. Incredible in the first movie. I'm okay with them doing a story arc for Elastigirl in the second movie. I'm okay with that. We got to talk about the surveillance state, in so much as in the second movie, there's a camera in their uniforms, so everywhere they go, they're recording people, kind of like police officers, right? Like this was around the time where all the police officers were supposed to have cameras, right? So now all the superheroes are going to have to wear cameras. The organization who's going to try to get superheroes back into legalization, they choose Elastigirl to be the face of this thing rather than Mr. Incredible because of political reasons. She causes less damage. But what they do is they end up pulling the mother from the household. So now we got this feminist thing where the woman leaves her family to go to work, leaving the husband stressed out, at home alone. And it becomes a thing of whether his ego can step aside so that she can blossom and bloom as a superhero that she's supposed to be, and whether she can actually trust him to be a loving and caring father. And of course, he can't really be trusted because, of course, he's a man. So he gets frustrated by math, and he's frustrated about the baby won't go to sleep, and he doesn't understand the teenage girl, and all this kind of stuff is going on. But they essentially break up the family through most of the movie. Unlike in the first one, where the family is an important part to the movie because it made him sneaking off becoming a superhero, made him a better father. Elastigirl leaving the household to become a superhero made her a worse mother. But they missed that part. But The Incredibles 2 was made not for children, but for adults. It was another sort of feminist spin on a famous intellectual property. Yeah, watching Jack was pretty hard. It was pretty difficult. It was hard enough. He didn't know what to expect from that situation. They didn't usually have dad. Usually he can't really handle the kids. He's not used to it. So he gets frustrated with the kids and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a regular cliche trope. I mean, that's all, The Incredibles is. It plays on a lot of superhero cliches, but it does it very well, and I very well enjoy it. You even had the feminist villain who talks trash about her brother and all that kind of stuff. How she's the real genius behind it. Her brother is just a salesman. All that kind of shit. I never seen Shrek. I never found Shrek to be interesting. But the DC animated movies, those are not for children. They have cursing in them. There's sex in them. There's ultra violence in them too. I think in what was that? One of them, Batman literally puts like a batarang through the Joker's eye. Like it's not PG, man. A lot of these DC animated movies, they're really violent, and there's a lot of cursing in them. The Harley Quinn cartoon is adult. It's for adults, you know. But of course, we all know that the king of adult animation is the anime. Akira, Ninja Scroll, Kite. What's that? Wicked City. Is that Wicked City? Wicked City. Goku Private Eye. So many great anime, and they are not for children at all. Those are aimed at adults. You have to be an adult to watch it. Now, in America, they will try to make what they call all ages, and that's typically something like The Incredibles, where it's something that it looks like it's for children, but it's for the adults too. Yeah, The Killing Joke. I had such a hard time remembering it, but yeah, The Killing Joke was pretty brutal. They even put a sex scene in that joint, and it wasn't necessary. They did it just cause. Like they did it just cause. It infuriated everybody. It made everybody sick. I don't know a single person who was okay with Batman banging Batgirl on the roof. Nobody was okay with that. Nobody was okay with that. And I'm pretty sure kids would be looking at that looking like, ugh, why? Why would you do that? Why on the roof though? Why having sex on the roof? That's weird, bruh. It is weird. But the DC animated movies, despite the fact that they have superheroes in them, those are not for children. I haven't seen the most recent Batman movie, for those of you who might be asking. I also have not seen the most recent Green Lantern movie. So, but no, I haven't seen Shrek. I have no interest in Shrek. It's another one of those things that's been out for a long time that I never thought to see, never thought to look at. But animation just is there to tell stories. That's literally the job of animation. It's just there to tell stories. If you got a story that you want to tell, animation can do it. It gives you different options, different different actors. The one thing I loved about The Incredibles is how human-like the characters were in speech pattern, in animation pattern. Like it was really good. Yes, I've seen Hush. The last DC animated movie I watched was The Long Halloween. I watched both parts of The Long Halloween, but I haven't seen anything after that. I think they did a Ninja Turtles Batman movie. I don't think I've seen that either. But I'm gonna watch them eventually. I'm gonna catch up. But I know there's supposed to be another one. The Super Sons. They got a movie out. I haven't seen that one either. I'm gonna get around to it eventually. But these movies are aimed at adults because they're telling stories that are interesting to adults. And you can have PG material that is interesting to adults. You can have even G-rated material that is interesting to adults. Chapek, Walsh, these guys are so narrow-minded. They don't understand that it's just a medium of storytelling. Here's the thing about the Incredibles is that part of it seems to be set in like the 40s and 50s. Like the early part of the Incredibles, it's like the 40s and 50s. Like the newsreel and everything. And then 15 years supposedly passed, and there's futuristic shit. Airplanes and flying cars, and it was like the Jetsons all of a sudden, And then there's in the second movie, Jack is still a baby, and all the characters are essentially the same age. Like it finishes, the second movie takes place almost immediately where the second one ends, and there is all kinds of stuff in those movies. Like there's I think there's still a cord phone, but I think there's also like a cell phone in that movie too. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but I know there's cameras, like all kinds of robots and shit in there. So it's like it plays off a lot of the superheroes from the 40s and 50s. That's what like Mr. Incredible is. He's like a throwback to Superman, early days of Superman, early days of like Doc Savage or whatever. He's just like a traveling adventurer, you know. And then he becomes sort of domesticated, and it seems like the world has changed around him. And he works in this office, and it's sad, it's stifling. Yeah, the Long Halloween isn't bad. I forgot about the story. Because I remember reading the Long Halloween before I watched it. I read the Long Halloween a long time ago. But the movie seemed to drag a little bit. It seemed a little bit longer than it should have been. WG Field says, "What do I think the superhero cinematic universe bubble will burst?" When they stop utilizing characters that people know. So I say watch Spider-Man. The movie that's the time when a Spider-Man movie flops, you'll know it's over with. I mean, Vegeta Lover is right. It is kind of on its deathbed already, but people are still kind of hoping and praying that Kang the Conqueror is going to come through and there's going to be an X-Men thing, and that's going to be the big test is how the X-Men did. The X-Men ought to be interesting. I have no interest in Ant-Man or Black Panther. I just don't care about anything here. I don't care about none of this shit. I went to see Black Adam because I was interested, and they said it was going to launch the new DC universe. But I'm not even really interested in the DC universe. It depends on what they do, though. I'm sure that there's something they could do to make it interesting to me, and I'm not sure exactly what. I think the X-Men are going to have to save the MCU. It's the last card they have to play. They played the Spider-Man card. They've gotten rid of Iron Man. They can't use excuse me, Black Panther anymore. So it's gotta be the X-Men. They gotta save them. So if X-Men don't work, it's over. You'll know that it's popped. And if they do something stupid like rename it the Mutants or something like that, it's really going to be over with. But that's up to them. How much do they really want it? How badly do they really want it? How badly do you really want it? Do you really want to fuck up? You really want to fuck it up? Because you could if you wanted to. They said, with stuff like Top Gun, Maverick hitting box office records and with the recession, do you think Hollywood eventually stop with the woke BS? No. We're in a post-capitalist society. These companies have so much money, they don't care about money anymore. That's why they do shit like Halloween Ends are going to be on streaming and in theaters. If you cared about money, you would make it either streaming only or theater only, right? That's where you would go. I don't expect the Fantastic Four to do much. I mean, it's just the X-Men as far as I'm concerned. X-Men is like the last big property that Marvel has to play. I think Fantastic Four has been destroyed too many times. They're not even important in the comic books, really. No, because I should probably read the question first. Do I think there's going to be an anime cinematic universe boom? No, because I think what's going to end up happening is Netflix is going to end up licensing all of these anime, all these classic anime, probably trying to redo them or whatever, and pissing people off in the process. They don't have a good track record, Some people didn't like what they did with Berserk. I watched the Netflix movies of Berserk. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it gave a good. I haven't read the manga, But for most people, I think said that it was pretty faithful to the manga. But then you also have Death Note, and it was trash. And you have what was it, Ultraman, and it wasn't good. I think they did Ultraman. It was Netflix that did Ultraman, right? And it sucked. Um, it's they just have such a bad, bad reputation with anime and Baki the Grappler and stuff like that. Like, come on, man, no, thank you. Um, but I think the next big thing in Hollywood is taking the piss out of superhero movies, which they've already started doing with The Boys. You know, so I think they're going to eventually start taking the piss. There's going to be anti-superhero stuff. You know, like they did a really good job pushing all that crap. You know, now it's going to start tearing it down. But where was I going with that? Where was I going with that? I was going somewhere, and now I lost my mind. Um, yeah, live action anime movies are a no go. I don't see why they even try to do it. I understand that there's money involved, but it doesn't make sense to do it from our perspective. It doesn't make sense to do it. It's a waste of time. Even the Japanese can't really get it right. The Death Note movies were okay in live action. They were all right. I didn't hate the Death Note movies in Japanese. Somebody says G Love says a poll with 135,000 votes had Bardock as a more important character than Gohan. I guess you have to ask what that means, because without Bardock you don't have Goku. But Bardock himself that doesn't make him important, considering he doesn't really appear in the manga. He's but Gohan saved the entire universe from what's the name, Cell, and he helped save the universe from Majin Buu. So I think we should give our boy Gohan some live action anime some credit. I think we should. I don't think so. I don't think we're going to get any Black Adam Peacemaker crossover stuff. I don't see the end of that. When do I think the MCU will come to an end? Again, I said it. When the X-Men flops, then it's going to be over with, and nobody's going to care anymore. But probably by then, it'll probably be like Phase 5, and it's going to be Apocalypse or some shit like that. All right, let's do some manga reviews. What do you guys think? Let's try that. So I got the one manga that I had actually read all week. I didn't go to the comic book store because I'm going to YumaCon next week, and here in Detroit. Speaking of which, if you're going to be at YumaCon, you know, that'd be nice. I was thinking about saying let's meet up and go have lunch, but I don't know. We'll see. Watch the community post to see if I decide to do that or not. But because I'm going to YumaCon next week, I'm probably going to buy a lot of manga. Especially catching up with some stuff that I wanted to read that I don't have. So I only bought one new manga all week, and it was Hell's Paradise by Yuji Kaku. Apparently, this series is over. It ended at issue 13. But it tells the story of Gabimaru the Hollow. He is a ninja who is pretty much unkillable. And he's sentenced to death row. And he knows all of these interesting ways to prevent himself from being killed. And at first you realize that he wants to die. He tells you that he wants to die, doesn't want to live anymore, doesn't see any real point in living. And yet he continuously resists these executions. You know, he just has a way of surviving these executions. And he's like, look, you guys need to try a little bit harder. And then when you realize is, as you read through the story, that he's actually clinging to life. You know, there's something within him that wants to live. There is a reason for him to live. And it's very sweet. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it, but that's the general idea, is that In order to get what he really wants, what's helping him cling to life, he has to go on a mission to retrieve the elixir of life and bring it back. And if he does that, he gets to go back to what makes him happy. And it's something so incredibly simple. It's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful, and it's in simplicity. And I love it so much. Hell's Paradise, very good. I strongly suggest it. I'm going to read all 13 chapters, well, all 13 volumes. I don't know if I talked about this book. I'm waving this book around like you can see it. It's called From the Red Fog by Mose Nohara. It tells the story of a young boy who was supposedly born in England during, it seems to be the 1600 Victorian era. And he was raised by his mom. His mom is a serial killer. His mom is also very, very abusive. And he's trapped in a basement. And the only thing he could do is discard the bodies for her. His name was Rwanda. And that's his job, is to discard the bodies after his mom lures people into the basement and kills them or something like that. So he learns how to chop up bodies, how to do harm and all these horrible things from his mother. And once he's liberated from his mom, he really kind of goes on his own little killing spree because it's the only way he knows how to live. It's 2 volumes in so far. I only have the first one, but this is pretty dark. This is dark shit. This is pretty fucking dark. This is real messed up stuff because Rwanda's not even that old. He's like a kid. He's like 14, 15 or something like that. And he's a murdering little fuck. But I really enjoyed that. How did Bob's boss survive getting thrown through 3 walls? Hey, they were dry. It was drywall, so he might have been okay. All right. So I'm also reading the Attack on Titan omnibus. I am loving Attack on Titan and reading this series. I'm trying to see what chapter I'm on because I usually try to stop reading on a certain chapter. I'm on chapter, I think, 17 or 18. They just found Marco dead in the street after telling him that he would be a good leader. So now he's been killed. Poor Marco. He just got fucked over. But I love Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is frightening. Now they're starting to go into the backstory of the characters somewhat, their training and everything. You get to see that Eren Yeager is not very good at this whole thing. Even though he does get better, of course. Mikasa is tremendous, and Armin is a loser. But my favorite character so far is Sasha Blouse. She is so incredibly stupid. I love her so much. She is in the middle of like basic training, eating a potato, and it's so fucking shocking to the drill instructor that you see it in his face that he is standing there just absolutely just taken aback. That a matter of fact, let's read this. So he says, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" And she's just munching, chewing this potato. And he's like, "You scum! I'm talking to you. What the hell is your name?" Munch, gulp. Dalper Village, Walrose, South District. Sasha Blouse, sir. She's got the potato in her hand. And she's got her hand over her heart with the potato in her hand. Sasha Blouse, what is in your right hand? A steamed potato, sir. I happened to see them in the kitchen and couldn't help myself. So you stole it. Why? Why are you eating the potato now? they lose their taste when they get cold. So I thought it best to eat it right now. And he is just his facial expression is so well drawn because it's so incredulous. It is so incredulous that he just like, I cannot believe anybody is this fucking stupid. So he's like, are you asking me why people eat potatoes in general? And she, of course, has to go run all these. But this is the funniest part is that after she gets busted, she decides the best way to save this situation, break the potato in half and give half to the drill instructor. She figures that's going to make everything okay. You know what? I know I embarrassed you in front of everybody. I know I'm being insubordinate as hell. I'm being ignorant and dumb. But hey, here's half a potato. hope it turns out all right. She is great. She instantly became my favorite character right there. I hope nothing ever happens to her. We need to protect her. I will protect her with my own body. Later, she continues to be stupid, and she ends up really kind of falling under the sway of other people because she's so damn dumb. But she's great. She fucking rules. Sasha rules. And she's kind of the comedic foil for everybody too. They play a little joke on her later after Aaron is fighting Jean in the mess hall. Mikasa tells everybody that, oh no, it was just Sasha farting that making all that noise. But she's so cool. She's very good. She is great. I love Sasha. But where I am on Attack on Titan is I think this is chapter 18. I haven't finished chapter 18. I think I probably got pulled away. But we haven't learned anything about the Titans yet. We started learning about the kids. And we learned about each kid and how screwed up the society is. Because the society has it where the best soldiers actually don't fight on the front lines. The best soldiers are actually the military police. So, because they get to make a choice. If you get good enough scores, you get to choose. And they're all choosing to be military police. Nobody wants to die. Nobody actually wants to go outside the wall. Nobody actually really wants to go and fight the Titans. They just see fighting the Titans as a necessary evil. Just something they kind of have to do. And Aaron is very perplexed about this. And he's starting to figure out that there's something wrong here with this society where nobody's willing to fight to save it. They're kind of putting idiots and numbskulls on the front line. And it should be no surprise that they keep getting killed and eaten because it seems to be all morons. They're getting killed. But we also got Captain Levi, who seems to be like, an utmost badass out here. So that's very cool. Is that all for the manga that I have? Well, I guess we could talk about Succubus and Hitman. Did I ever talk about that? I don't have the first volume, but I do have the second volume. It's one of those, it's a weird story, and it's hard for me to explain it because I don't have the first volume. But essentially what it seems, I'm going to read the blurb on the back. It says, a fateful encounter. Armelina and Shuya are in hot pursuit of the brutal violator, Mount Beatdown. Their chase brings them face to face with another proxy hitman, a girl named Teki Kaname. Will the hitmen cooperate, or will their meeting end in bloodshed? Ooh. So what this story is that there's a kid who died and was resurrected in another kid's body, or this hitman, he's a killer who died and he was resurrected inside of the body of some child. And now he has this contract with this demon, Succubus. And he has to basically do things on her behalf in order to sort of, I guess, live a better life. But he's a teenage boy, and he's a grown man in a teenage boy's body. So a lot of the sexualization that's in here, with and this is mature audiences. So there is like sexual stuff in here. There's actual rape in here, and pretty violent stuff. But it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Is it better than Hell's Paradise or From the Red Fog? No. But I enjoyed it anyway. Succubus a Hitman. It's pretty good. No Guns Life. Did I talk about that before? Did I ever talk about No Guns Life? The anime No Guns Life is fun. You've probably seen the anime. No Guns Life is all about the Juzo who has a gun for a head. This series, I guess, is over 2, but I also could not find book 2 or 3. Maybe hopefully I'll be able to find it at I know I could probably buy, the random numbers, which is, I hate doing that. I hate having like 1, 4, 7, 6 and all that shit. I want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But some anime collectors are just kind of like, well, I don't care. I have 6 and 26. And I'm like, oh, what? How can you even? I wouldn't even be able to follow that. But this is very crime noir, sort of sci-fi, hard sci-fi, like extended humans with metal parts and all kind of stuff. But it's all about the mystery of Juzo and the gun for a head and all that kind of stuff. It's very cool. I really fell in love with the anime and wanted to read the manga and didn't know that the manga was already done, I think. But I haven't been able to find all of the issues. I'll find them eventually. I feel the same way when I watched Black Lagoon. And I was like, oh, I want to read the manga. And then I found out Black Lagoon came out in like the 90s. I was like, oh shit. That shit is out of print. I'm never gonna find that. So that wasn't nice. All right. So I guess we reached the end of not, once more not talking about horror movies. But matter of fact, let's get it out of the way. I hate horror movies. I've seen quite a few horror movies as a kid. Friday the 13th, Child's Play, Halloween. I was a big fan of slasher movies when I was a kid, so the Jason films were some of my favorites. And then I realized they were pretty much all the same. They all ran together. The only thing that really stood out to me was Jason Takes Manhattan, because it became Jason punching the head off some guy off a roof. And that's when you realize that horror movies became mostly comedy over time. How silly that horror movies became, especially in the United States. I can't talk about horror movies elsewhere because they still make serious horror movies elsewhere. But in the United States, horror movies just became a joke. They became absolutely stupid movies. Even the ones that are supposed to be serious, like Jason versus Freddy, are absolutely silly movies. I did like The Purge. I don't know if The Purge counts as a horror movie. I count it as a horror movie because the shit's scary. One day a year, your neighbors can fucking kill you if they wanted to for something that you did 10 months ago, 8 months ago. You don't even remember. People going out hunting each other. I love that kind of shit too, by the way, which is why I was really a big fan of the Purge franchise. But I've never been a big fan of horror movies. They almost all run together to me. They all seem silly. Even something like Final Destination. I remember seeing some of those movies and saying to myself, like, what the fuck am I watching this shit for? Like I saw Final Destination and somebody slipped in the shower on some goddamn soap and bopped their head open. I'm like, oh god, that could happen to anybody. Is that supposed to be scary? And then it became, it's not supposed to be scary, it's supposed to be gory. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to watch bad things happen. Like I remember, what was that, Friday the 13th, where a guy got pulled into a bed and tons of blood just spewed out of the bed. I remember being like, oh my God, when I was a kid, that was scary. But now as an adult, I'm kind of like, not only is it not scary, I don't even know what the purpose of it is. So I don't know. Maybe I need to watch. Like, I can't get myself to watch them either. That's the worst thing. Like I tried to watch The Omen, which I heard is a good horror movie. And after that woman hung herself, I was just kind of like, okay. And then I saw the dog and how the kids reacted to the dog and the dog's reacting to the kid. And I was kind of like, okay. By the end of the movie, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. And it's just like nothing stuck. I didn't care. I didn't find it funny. It was creepy, of course, but I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it horrifying. I thought Pan's Labyrinth was actually more interesting as a I always what is it a horror movie? Pan's Labyrinth is a pretty good movie. That kind of ties into my earlier statement about adults and animation because there's a lot of really cool stuff in Pan's Labyrinth too. That's meant to be scary because Pan, when she well, that's not her name, but when she goes into the maze, she was told not to go into that maze, so she kind of disobeyed, and this was kind of her punishment that she kind of got lost in there with all the monsters and freaks and shit. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, that was kind of scary. I thought it was a horror. It's not a horror movie, but it's creepy. Um, I see why people do like them. If you like watching people get mutilated, and they're for adults, so there's plenty of like ghost stories and shit. But for me, I just like this shit is stupid. Like I haven't seen a horror movie. Like I think does Predator count as a horror movie? Because if it does, then that movie was great. I love Predator. You know, um, some of the like Train to Busan, I thought was pretty good, but that had zombies in it, and I was kind of over zombies at the time too, so that was really good, and it made me remember that zombies could be done very cool. 28 Days Later, where they had the smart zombies, where the zombies could duck and run and jump over things and stuff like that. That was okay. I didn't hate that. Um, but most horror movies are absolute trash. Whether they have, um, maybe I'm just an action movie guy, but I don't like horror movies. They're stupid. Like the villains have no fucking goals. The characters don't have any goals. Like I watched Halloween 2, for instance, just because I wanted to talk about it. I need to have an example of a horror movie that was stupid as fuck that I actually saw recently. So I just picked one. I was like, okay, it's on Peacock, so I watched Halloween 2. And Michael Myers is murdering people in the movie, but they tell you that because Michael Myers can't talk himself, so other people have to give you his side of the story, what he's looking for, what he wants. He wants Lori. He wants his sister. And I'm like, okay, his sister is locked in an insane asylum. So of course he has to break into this insane asylum and kill people in order to get to his sister. Um, but he is doing things to people that really wouldn't make much sense. Like he turned up the water on the jacuzzi and dunked this woman's head in it over and over and over again until her skin melted off of her face. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. What about his hand though? Like it's just something I just I don't know. Like, how do we explain? Like, at least Child's Play explains how Chucky can do all of like in Nightmare on Elm Street. It kind of explains how the killer kind of character can't be killed and can't be hurt and can't be harmed. Like, I'm not even sure how Jason Voorhees, and he's not in all the movies either. He's not in the first Friday the 13th. I'm not sure how Jason Voorhees came to be the murder zombie that he is. Michael Myers is supposed to be a human being. He's for the most part, but he's also a murder zombie, sort of the first murder zombie. But I don't know of any secret incantations or secret anything that for him to continue to exist. Like Jason Voorhees as a character he is revenge. He's vengeance. He's like the spirit of vengeance. Like he was made fun of. He ended up drowning out in Crystal Lake. And now he's the creature from Crystal Lake who comes back and, punishes the town, murdering various teenagers, always teenagers in this town. And it seemed like it doesn't go anywhere, you know? It just seems like it's just endless. Like, how could you stop it? Like there should be some way of stopping this to create some kind of drama or whatever, but it's just a lot of jump scares and knives. And it's kind of like, I don't know. Michael Myers is the shape. The shape. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. You think Predator is an action thriller? I think Predator is it's up there. It's got to be a horror movie. It's an alien that's hunting, full grown men. Have I seen Brightburn? I tried to watch it. I probably fell asleep on it. I'm not even gonna hold you up. Goosebumps always hit around Halloween. I tried to watch a movie, Something Wicked This Way Comes, because I like the book, but the movie is kind of boring. I talked about that earlier. Yeah, Michael Myers is the shape, but they're telling you that he was in the mental hospital 15 years ago, and you're like, okay, and his psychiatrist is trying to kill him. Look at psychiatrist running around with a gun. And in the 90s really just kind of destroyed the horror movie genre, because then it started having a Scream, and there was 100 Scream movies, and none of them were any good. And I don't think we learned anything from Scream. I just feel like it was just like a sort of subversion of the horror genre. Yeah, they've been roasting JD all day, but I don't really care. So, I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to it. We'll get to it when we get to it. But it'll be all right. He'll be okay. You better learn how to use that block button. Better start duck and run for cover. Don't throw shots if you can't take them. I remember doing a video about JD from New York before anyway, and it was a similar thing, and it was, I think it was an Alexa Bliss thing, Did I see the Kane scary movies? You talk See No Evil? No, I have not seen those. I never thought to watch them. I did watch, Razor Fist did a movie review for Stone Cold Steve Austin's Hunt to Kill. That made me watch that movie. Like I'd never seen that movie before. So I watched the movie, and it's fucking funny. The Condemned is still the best Stone Cold Steve Austin movie. And maybe we might do a wrestling movie night. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do a wrestling movie night, because I want to watch The Condemned again. And maybe I'll watch See No Evil too. But, that might be fun. Maybe that might be fun. Maybe on a week where I don't have where I don't have that much content, we'll just go pick a wrestler, watch the movie, and maybe See No Evil will pop up. But WWE films, man, I don't really trust them. But I thought they were funny. I thought they were funny being made, because they started trying to utilize if you want to utilize the character on screen, that would have been fine for me. But it should have been somebody else. It shouldn't have been Kane, though. It should have been like something you would have gave to another character. What about? I've never seen any of the Marine movies. I have no interest in seeing them. Would I watch any horror movie with Bray as the Fiend? It depends. It depends. Now, because the Fiend is an actually interesting character, they'd probably be able to get away with it. But it depends. It depends quite a bit on what the movie would be about. I heard 12 Rounds was probably one of John Cena's better movies before he went straight Hollywood and started doing other stuff. But I heard 12 Rounds was pretty good. But I don't really hear much about wrestler movies being good. Most people just say it's passable. But I'm telling you, The Condemned is actually fun. It's funny as fuck too. Steve Austin is he is. I think Razorfist nailed it when he said that he's a '80s action cliche. That's exactly what the fuck he is. In every movie I've seen Stone Cold Steve, I'm gonna watch Damage probably tonight because that's another Stone Cold Steve Austin movie I wanted to see that I never got to see. He made me want to just binge Stone Cold Steve Austin movies. You know, goddamn that guy. Because I remember The Condemned because Santino Marella made fun of it, and that made me go get the DVD when it came out. But I actually fucked around and actually liked it. Hunt to Kill was okay. I didn't think it was great though. I didn't really like it as much as Razor Fist did. John Moxley did a rip off of 12 Rounds. Well, he does a rip off of Stone Cold Steve Austin anyway. But that was John Cena, right? 12 Rounds. The Chaperone, I would probably never watch that. It don't even look like anything I would want to see. So there's so many of these movies just don't feel like anything I want to see. Like I'm picky about movies because I know there's at least an hour or 2 hours of my time I can't get back. So I'm very picky about what movies I actually spend time watching. And nowadays, because I could rather be reading manga or watching something else, you got 10 minutes, 20 minutes maybe to get my attention, and then maybe I'm out of there. Then I might pick up something. You know, I may pick up a book, and next thing you know, I'm flipping through that and not paying the fucking movie any attention. Planet of the Apes. I've never seen any of the Planet of the Apes movies. That and Jurassic Park. Those are two things that people usually jump on my back about because I've never actually seen them. People and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. Like I avoided a lot of that shit. And a lot of people are like, you've never seen Planet of the Apes? You've never seen Star Wars? Like, no. You never watched Harry Potter? No. You never seen Lord of the Rings? No. No. None of those things looked interesting to me. When I grew up, Star Wars fans were the absolute scum of the earth. They were the guys who sat outside the theaters for 2 weeks waiting for that movie. No, I've never seen Jurassic Park. I tried to watch it. At work, and then I couldn't have fell asleep. I had to go. Probably went and did something else and didn't pay any attention. I'm gonna watch Jurassic Park eventually, but I still haven't seen it. My ex-girlfriend used to yell at me all the time to watch Jurassic Park, but I was be like, you gotta see it. I'm like, I'm not really into dinosaurs. You know, I'm not really a dinosaur guy. Like I'm a big kaiju monster guy. You know, like I kind of like Godzilla, but dinosaurs, I don't know. I was just taught that some things are just too nerdy even for me, and that just kind of keeps me away from things. Like it's one of those things where I straddle the line always, being from the hood but also being a nerd. So you always have to cross. You can't cross over too far. You know, like I like rap music, but I also like some rock. Like I would actually be like, oh, okay. Have you ever heard of Metallica? You ever heard of Green Day? I like Green Day songs. You know, like even recently, I try to get people to listen to the Black Keys or something like that, and they'd be like, "What? I don't want to hear that shit. You listen to the Black Keys?" I'm like, yeah, man, pretty dope, but they don't want to hear it. So you have to be like, okay, well, I don't know who Da Baby is or Little Baby or whatever the fuck his name is. You have to suffer through that shit just so people won't think you're absolutely too nerdy. But when I gave up on rap, I gave up on that shit. I have not seen all the Godzilla movies. I've seen the most recent ones. I hated Godzilla 2000. It was so boring. It was super boring. Godzilla versus King Kong was fun though. I think that movie was fun. I didn't mind it. They had to come together to fight the Mecha Godzilla. Oh, okay. Okay. They couldn't kill each other, so they had to come together for a greater cause. All right, sure. I did a movie review of that for those of you who are interested. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of horror flicks. I'm not a big fan of I like Star Trek, but I don't like Star Wars. Um, I guess everybody just kind of has their thing. Horror movies is not my thing. Certain sci-fi is not my thing. I watched Battlestar Galactica. I watched both Battlestar Galactica series. The recent one is awful. The most recent Battlestar Galactica is absolutely awful. It is such cynical garbage. I hate that fucking show. I finished it too, and I hated it. I hated it so much. It was so awful. It was so dark. It was like Gantz. Like I hated Gantz. I hated Gantz so much. I was probably one episode from finishing it and quit. That's how much I hated that show. I hated that fucking show so much. All right, I'm getting kind of sleepy and I have to go to the bathroom. So thank you guys. Have a happy Halloween. I will see you guys live on Thursday, but I'll probably be seeing you guys tomorrow. Likely, well, tomorrow, Monday, October 30th, 31st, because we may be doing a Smart Tears on JD from New York getting spit roasted by the AEW roster. Maybe. We'll see how it feels when I wake up in the morning. All right. Thank you guys for your time. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you again. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.